A lot of stuff has been happening over the past few weeks. I don't exactly remember the date, but I did this podcast with Ari Shafir, and it got a whole bunch of play. A lot of people listened to it. And then after that, I felt like people started listening. Like there was like actually an active, engaged Twitter following that I had. And so I started paying a little bit more attention. It gave me some more direction and focus, and like more direction and focus towards recovery, and just talking about that because I had less fear. And I don't remember what the exact date was, but the Harper government passed a law, Bill C-65, which basically made it nearly impossible for any other community to get a safe injection site. And I tweeted about it, and I just said, fact, if it wasn't for the safe injection site, I wouldn't be alive, let alone be lived long enough to be clean and sober now. And that got a lot of play. Like people heard and retweeted it, and then CKNW got in touch with me. They emailed me. Jessica Gares, who's the producer of CKNW, emailed me and said, "Hey, do you want to come in? And we want to do an interview and have you talk about this bill that was just passed." And I came in, and then she got really excited, and she said, "Hey, do you want to do an audio documentary?" And I was like, "Sure, why not?" I think it's cool when people want to know about me, and then also like I feel like they're trying to educate themselves, and also I believe that everybody is struggling in their own way, and we're not struggling that much differently. And so, yeah, like if my story is going to help somebody, then I want to be able to help facilitate that, I guess. Anyways, we did the recording. It was 5 hours long. They smashed it down to 20 minutes. We did the interview. But I guess I should back up, because the Friday going into this interview and this airing of this documentary that I did with CKNW, Corey Monteith died, who was a guy that I did know. And then secondly, people kind of started speculating and saying stuff about how he might have died, or the what ifs. And specifically, a reporter stepped up from the Calgary Herald and wrote a pretty intense piece with no real facts, and said that essentially Corey wouldn't have died had he been anywhere else, which is pretty ridiculous, and actually kind of put it on the safe injection site. I kind of took that personal, because I mean, these people helped get me to a place where I could care about myself and do something about it. Like, they cared for me when I didn't care for myself, and then one day I was like, hey, I can do what you guys are doing for myself. I got this from here. Anyways, so it was, again, I hit Twitter, and then there was like a lot of people like engaging and saying, and again, I was like very open and honest about my own addiction and what that looks like. And a lot of people engaged. Anyways, so moving forward, by Monday, I went into the studio at 9 o'clock in the morning, or 8:30, for the airing of this documentary with CKNW. They interviewed me. We had a good discussion, and I got to hear a really interesting perspective. Mark Townsend came in, and he's the director, or the bigwig, the guy that kind of one of the main people at PHS, which is who oversees the safe injection site and a bunch of other hotels. Approached it way different than I could have imagined. He approached it like, I bet she had really good intentions. And I was like, wow, like, what a way to go at that. And he didn't exclude anybody from the conversation by doing that. And so I felt like I had a lot to learn. Anyways, to backtrack a little bit, a few weeks ago, I bought a motorcycle and I connected with a good friend of mine who works at the Safe Injection site, and he has a motorbike. I had a motorbike. We started talking. Let's go for a ride. We went for a ride, and we're riding up to Squamish, and we're like riding side by side, and we're just both kind of looking at each other, shaking our heads like, wow, like this is super crazy, you know, because he saw me at my worst, and I'm sure that he would say that he didn't think that I was going to make it. And then, you know, here we are riding motorbikes together. Now, on that particular trip, I started having this idea, like, what if I went across the country? What if, you know, me and this guy, because what a story, right? He, like, you know, he saved my life, and then now we're, like, you know, in a place where we're going out for rides, and people are talking poorly about the Safe Injection site and harm reduction in Vancouver as a whole. Well, what if I got on my motorbike with this guy that saved my life, and we went into these communities, into the poorest neighborhoods in the major cities, and had a look and said, you know, like, how would I have fared if I had tried to get clean and sober here? And so that was basically the idea. So flash forward to Monday. You know, I'm starting to have these big ideas, and I'm thinking like all of August, you know, go to Calgary, maybe get some interviews going, maybe do some public speaking stuff, talk about my experience, go to Ottawa, go to Toronto, go to Montreal, and then just kind of go from there. And so I was like, I get really super jacked, like when I have big ideas, and especially when I believe so strongly in them. So yeah, Monday I bumped into Mark Townsend. I stuck around. I waited till his interview was done. I came out. He was like, "Hey, kudos on this thing that you've been doing with CKNW and like at blah blah blah." And I was like, "Cool, thanks, Mark." I'm like, "Hey, what do you think about this idea that I have about maybe going out to you know, Calgary, Toronto, Ottawa, Montreal?" Before I could say anything, he was like, "Do it. We'll help you out. We'll support you in that, and you know, that would be great. Go out and do some talks." And I was like, "Wow, like you guys, you're gonna back up this idea that I have based on what?" And I always find that interesting when people just believe so strongly in me. Like I can say something, and they're like, "Yeah, we know this guy's going to do it." So, you know, here I am kind of trying to put together this idea. Like over the past few days, I went out and I bought like a truck, like not a truckload, but like a couple duffel bags full of like camera gear. So I got a brand new camera, I got a GoPro, I got my iPhone 5. I bought a good lens for the whole thing, enough memory cards that, you know, like I'm not going to run out of memory. Got a new laptop, and yeah, like now I'm just super geeked out because like I just went and blew like a whole bunch of money on stuff that I have no clue if it's going to work out or not. I just know that it's something that I need to do, and sometimes the best way for me to do something is just to do it. Like get the idea and like not overthink it, but then at the same time, like I've come up against that where I don't think about it enough, and it kind of blows up in my face. But in this case, like I think the worst thing that can happen is that I take some beautiful pictures of some beautiful people in the poorest neighborhoods in the country. I share them with the people that are listening, and I have an awesome motorbike ride with like somebody that I love and care about who saved my life. Like that's like the worst case scenario. The best case scenario is that I get out there and I learn more about harm reduction, that I learn more about myself, that I learn more about the statistics, and potentially raise awareness about how helpful it is to be helped. And that's it. So we'll see what happens. Thanks for checking out kickingdown.com, and stay tuned for a whole crazy bunch of stuff. A bunch of stuff. I don't even know what I just said. But yeah, thanks for tuning in to kickingdown.com and supporting me. Until next time.